railways are very popular with all ages. We call them multi-generational. And it's a time of year when families are looking for something to do. And Garden Railway is very exciting, regardless of what age you might be. And it's a really strong attractant this time of year, when normally we would find such a thing outdoors. The RG Holiday Express train is a custom-built garden railway that was produced by Applied Imagination, a firm out of Kentucky. What makes it different and unique is that all of the trestles and buildings and structures are made out of all natural materials.
It's a magical experience to come and have, and it's great for families. Everybody loves trains, whether they're small children that love to run around and chase them and watch them and go into tunnels, and the mystery of when they come out of the tunnel, or even the older children, you know, that like to play with trains as their hobby, or that are still fascinated by trains. Central Iowa has a very strong railroading history, and so it was really quite fitting that we have this as part of our holiday display, and I think it's going to be a great new tradition.
One of the things that makes the Applied Imagination Garden Railways so intriguing is that they create buildings that reflect the community where these garden railways are. And there's only 15 of those sites around the country. So for instance, if you were to go to the New York Botanic Garden, you would find buildings that reflect Manhattan. If you went to Chicago Botanic, you would find buildings that would reflect Chicago. So what we did is we started with the university, since we have direct ties to the university, and picked out some iconic landmarks. That does not mean that in the future we won't look at other buildings that might represent the community. This was just a good place to start. The goal is to add buildings every year. There is a train that's part of this display that's called the Dinky. And the Dinky represents an actual 1 mile long track that used to exist in Ames that connected town with the university. It no longer exists, but it's a great historical aspect of this display. The main portion of the track has two tracks, an upper and a lower. And there are always a train that runs on the upper track and a train that runs on the lower track.
The Campanile is probably one of my favorite buildings because it does have sound, and I love the detail on it. They have some pine cones that have been, cut in different ways to be kind of the facade of the building that you would see, and they try to mimic some of the bricks that are on the Campanile that's on campus, and it plays music. It has a sensor on it, and so when the trains go by, it'll start to play certain tunes that the Campanile on campus does play, one of them being the Bells of Iowa State, which is the song of Iowa State. Beardshire Hall is a large building. It has a lot of natural bark, some cork. It has small gourds. It has seeds. There's a lot of detail that goes into the creation of Beardshire Hall, and that's what makes these Applied Imagination buildings so amazing. Is when you stop and really start to look at them, you see the amount of detail and the different materials that are going into the different, the windows or the lettering or the ornamentation that the buildings have on top of these very classical buildings. It's just amazing that the artists at Applied Imagination can use these different dried materials and come up with things that are just so beautiful. So Morrill Hall, being one of the original buildings to Iowa State's campus as a Morrill Land Grant University, a Morrill Act Land Grant University, We have our replication in the Applied Imagination version, and it has walnut, it has black bamboo, it has pine cone scales, just again a whole list of materials that go into building each one of these, and so much so that Applied Imagination gave us the list so we can use them in our interpretation, because it's even hard for us to keep track of what all goes into these different buildings, and it is a lot of fun for visitors to see. We have a small garden gnome, Elwood, our garden gnome. He's a replication of the garden gnome at Reiman Gardens, and he's so amazing, and he's made out of one very large gourd. One gourd that's probably about 24 inches tall, and they said that as soon as they got the job to create this railroad for Reiman Gardens, they'd had this gourd sitting in their storage for a while, and they were just waiting and holding on to it for just the perfect job. And as soon as they got Reiman Gardens, they saw our Elwood, the giant gnome, and they just knew that their gourd in storage was destined to be our Elwood. So a lot of these have fun little stories, and they're just very special.
We've put this display up 2 years now, and the first year it took us a week, but it required having professionals from Applied Imagination coming in and assisting. And that first year there were 5 people from that company who came in, and it took us 3 days with their help to set it up. This year, we were a little more skilled at doing some of the work ourselves, so it only took 2 of those people to come in and work 2 days. And our goal is, every year, is to rely less and less on the professional help and be able to do this ourselves.
The integration of Applied Imagination's vision and style, it is fairly easy in our conservatory space. Certainly their vision and their style is very naturalistic. I mean, it's all made out of natural materials, from the rough cut cedar to the acorns and the fungus that are used in the buildings, and the fact that it's in a conservatory space, while our plant and our permanent plants here are tropical in nature, really it's still green, it's still brown, it's all very organic, and so it does complement very well. As we are putting up the track every single year, we do have to be mindful of some of the palm trees, because even though we have the tracks in the same place every single year, trees still grow, even palm trees, and so we are still having to shift a little bit this way, a little bit that way, but the finished product is always spectacular, and we make it work, so it's actually a lot of fun.
Reiman Gardens invested in this display, and it was actually a pretty close to $100,000 investment, which is significant. But our goal is to hopefully continue to add buildings to it. We want to make this one of those things that our community thinks as it is a must-see every season, every holiday season. So our goal is to continue to add to the display and make it better every year, and have it set up so that everybody wants to come and see the holiday train every season.